Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new study as we take a look at the Song of Solomon, which goes by a couple names. Song of Solomon, Song of Songs, and there's also some other ones out there that you don't hear as much. But in most Bibles, I think it is the Song of Solomon. And I'm excited about this study as we start to move away from the wisdom poetry of David and Solomon. We're going to be wrapping that up mostly here in this book and heading towards the prophets. So this book is, I feel like I say this about every book that we study, but this book is in a lot of ways unique. You know, there are many books that are unique but are prophetic books. There are many books that are unique but are poetic or are historical, and they're unique in their own way. But this book really does kind of stand out on its own in the Bible as there's nothing really like it. And it's a book that I imagine a lot of people maybe have read through in a quick reading, but have probably never heard taught in a church or a Bible class setting. You know, there are reasons for that. You would probably have to have a special class for it or something like that for reasons that we'll talk about in a second. But it's certainly not a book that should be ignored or skipped over. It's a book that has a lot of value to it. As far as its authorship, we're going to save most of that for our first chapter, but it is the Song of Solomon, and most people conclude that Solomon is the author, and there's a number of reasons to conclude that, although it's not directly stated anywhere in the text. The subject matter of this book is really what makes it unique. It's a song about love, human love. What's interesting is that God isn't mentioned a lot in the book. It's not about love for God, at least not directly. It's about love between two human beings, a young man, and a young woman. It's not just about love, but it's about the beauty of their relationship, marriage, and also the physical attraction that they have to one another, which they describe in some detail, which is why you can't necessarily teach this all the time in with children present in the room. There's nothing, wild in here, but it very unashamedly and unabashedly talks about the man's desire for the woman's body and the woman's desire for the man's body. This book is also unique in the way that it's written. There's this dialogue within the book that changes back and forth, even within chapters. The dialogue between primarily, the young woman and the young man as they are talking about their attraction to one another. They're talking about their longing for one another. He's describing her beauty. She's describing his handsomeness and how much they want to be together all the time and miss each other when they are apart from one another. That's a quick rundown of the subject matter, and we're going to go into a lot more detail in our chapter by chapter outlines. But this subject matter has led a lot of people to question why this book is in the Bible. I mean, why? This is supposed to be God's story, right? Talking about him, praising him. Psalms are all about that, and other books of the Bible. Why is this in here? It's led to a couple different interpretive methods of the Song of Solomon historically, and I guess I'll just talk about two. The first one is just to read it literally as a story about human love, but some people have thought, no, it needs to be deeper than that. There's a more of an allegorical interpretation that we need to be thinking about as we read Song of Solomon, and that is that this relationship between the man and the woman in Song of Solomon is actually really describing on a deeper level the love for, one view is for God and Israel, his people. And then in the Christian age, many people have looked at it and said, oh, it's about God or about Jesus and his church. Because in the New Testament, there is parallels drawn between the husband and the wife relationship and Jesus' relationship with his church. The church even being described as the bride of Christ. And so they say, oh, okay, that must be what Song of Solomon is about. It's pointing us forward to this loving marital relationship that God is going to bring about, and it's supposed to be read allegorically. So which method are we going to be using as we go through our chapter by chapter 5-minute studies? We're going to be using the first method, the simple method, that this is just a description of human love, human attraction, human marriage. I don't see the allegorical interpretation as being really what this text was intended for. To me, I just don't think it's there in the text. You can force it into the text if you're trying to make this something that it's not, in my opinion, or if you're trying to like hyper spiritualize it and not just appreciate it for what it is. But personally, I would say no, I would reject the allegorical view. Now, certainly there are some passages that you can parallel between the love of God and us and the love of Jesus and his church. And there's some things that match up well and, that you can read in that way and find deeper meaning in, but it's not the intention of the author, I don't think. So what was the intention of the author? I think the intention was just a celebration of human love, human attraction, and the marriage relationship. Now, the question is, why would God put that in the Bible? Well, I think there's very good reason to put that in the Bible. A lot of times when we think about love and sex and physical attraction, we think about all the negatives, right? Because of our culture, it's so obsessed with it and it has abused those things in so many ways. The marriage relationship has been disrespected. Love has taken a backseat to lust in a lot of ways and sexual relationships that are not ordained by God or blessed by God. And in fact, these people have taken this good thing and they've perverted it. And that's what Satan is so good at, right? Taking beautiful things that God creates, twisting them and making them bad. So a lot of times in our churches, in our Bible studies, when we bring up the topic of sexual attraction, it's in kind of a warning way of don't let this, be a sin that you fall into. But if that's the only way that we ever talk about sexual attraction, we never talk about the beauty of attraction that leads to the marvelous union of marriage and all the blessings that people have in that marvelous union, and how God has created men and women to be in that union in a beautiful way, in a way that glorifies him, we're missing it if we never talk about that. If we always talk about the bad stuff and never the good stuff. We do need a reminder that the uniting of two human souls in marriage and the pleasure that is enjoyed in that relationship is a good thing. We ought to be teaching that. We ought to be teaching what it looks like when it's beautiful, not just when it's ugly, not just when it's sinful. It's good and right that your body desires this and desires another person, that you want to be joined with them in this God-created beautiful way. And here's the way that you do that. And here's what you'll enjoy when you do that God's way. And Song of Solomon is a great, on-ramp to that discussion. So it teaches us to celebrate what is good, not just look at the ways that good can be twisted into bad. Okay, well, I think that should probably do it for our introduction. I don't think that I have anything else to say that we won't probably cover within the book. And so, Lord willing, tomorrow we will start with chapter 1, and there are 8 chapters, so hopefully it'll take us just a little bit over a week to finish the whole thing. I hope you'll join us, and as always, on our website, that's where we have our free PDFs that are outlines for every chapter, and you can download those totally free on the website. And there's many other books out there as well that we've already completed. We've completed everything at this point up to Song of Solomon and even a few parts of the New Testament. So check out the website if you haven't, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow talk about Song of Solomon chapter 1.